I thought we had a good season. Obviously, wish we were still playing this weekend, but really couldn't have asked a whole lot more from the team. They gave an incredible effort from the day they walked in here last August to the last out in the ninth against Missouri State. So excited for the future. I'm looking forward to getting through the summer, getting through the draft, see where we're at, and got a few other things I got to take care of, but. Just proud that these guys hung in there and we turned it back around and got it back to where it needs to be.
What kind of timeline do you think you have for replacing Tony?
Our 18 class is we're done with 18 for the most part. Working on the 2019. Wes is out right now. I'll be out. We even got Josh Elander certified where he can go on the road now until we hire our coach. And 2020 class, we've got offers out there. So there's really no timeline. I would like to knock it out, but a couple of the guys I'm looking at, teams might still be playing. Right now, Josh Elander is going to come back in the same position that he's in right now as our volunteer and helping run all of our camps and to be our catching coach and assist and work with hitting, and he does a great job there. So I guess to answer your question, I'd like to have it done in a couple of weeks, but if it takes longer than that because we have to wait, we'll do what we need to do.
Dave, obviously you guys pay pretty well. You guys who work for you get head coaching jobs. Great. I guess how many guys have you heard from? What's the interest level in this job?
The interest level is very high. Former head coaches, some head coaches, obviously some recruiting coordinators at other schools, up-and-comers, a little bit of everything. Friends of mine that are in the league are suggesting coaches for me. And, really for the last probably 36 hours, my phone has been nonstop, either with text or phone calls, and I've spent a lot of time on the phone. And, I started returning texts this morning about 5:50 a.m. that I just couldn't get to yesterday. So just trying to get caught up and make sure everybody, feels like at least that I'm acknowledging that they're interested in the job and, whether it's good or bad. And I've made a lot of calls. I've made some tough calls telling some coaches that, probably not, but I appreciate it. And it's just part of the job.
Is Josh under any consideration for the full time?
Oh, yeah, because Josh is really good. Probably, he may be – he's getting close to, gaining the experience for this type of position. But this position is and the way we're set up, with our – with Coach Johnson and myself and is really, someone that can work with hitters, but which Josh can do. But we need someone that has a little more experience out on the road. That can really grind it out recruiting, and it's a huge commitment, the recruiting part of it.
Obviously, Tony's a recruiting machine. Do you anticipate being able to get somebody as good as him, or maybe you get somebody who's a really good recruiter, but maybe they have other strengths that
it'll be a combination of someone has a lot of recruiting ties. Definitely want to have get someone that has recruiting ties in the Midwest and then Texas. We probably got 10 kids on our roster from Texas just about every year, obviously, then the Midwest, this state big time, and and then after that we one here, one there. So definitely want someone that's been there and done that on the recruiting trail.
Is SEC experience a plus but not a must, so to speak?
Yeah, it's not a must at all. Tony didn't have SEC experience. Todd Butler did. I just want someone, obviously, that's coached at the Division I level, at the highest level, whether it's Big Five conferences or a different conference, just been at a program that wins, and they've proven that, they can get the job done.
You guys have, I think, a strikeout record. You hit a ton of the most home runs since the bats and balls got more. Just what'd you think of that combination of power, pitching and power hitting?
That was a great combination, and we weren't overly athletic, so I think we maximized what we had, and as a coach, we have to try to figure that out a little bit when guys finally make it to campus. You may lose a power hitter or two, Example, I look back at when we signed Greg Bird out of Colorado, and then the Yankees went in and snagged him in the 5th round and still gave him over $1 million. I think about him hitting on our lineup for the last 3 years. Now he's a big league first baseman for the Yankees. I mean, they took some power. This year we had older guys. They had some guys get better, bigger, stronger. We could see the power in the fall, and I've talked about that many a time. It had me concerned because I was kind of worried about our pitching, because we hit a lot of home runs in the fall, but we thought we would be able to put up some big innings, which we did. Probably the downfall that we weren't real athletic. We couldn't run. We didn't steal a lot of bases. Didn't really try a whole lot. Probably didn't go from first to third as good as we needed to. A lot of little things that I think next year's team will be a little bit more of that. We'll have some really good, a little more speed in here. We'll see how good those young guys can handle it when they first get here. The pitching part of it, the strikeouts, I expected we'd strike out some guys, probably not nearly as many as we did. And, losing Campbell, to me, he was a strikeout type guy. There's a bunch more that we could have had if we'd had him, healthy. But I think some guys really picked it up. And when you strike a lot of people out, you don't have to field the ball as much. Our team fielding percentage was better. When you hit a lot of home runs, you don't hit a lot of doubles. And our doubles were down, but our home runs are up. You can evaluate it any way you want, but I thought we did a great job with what we had. Like I said earlier, I thought Coach Johnson did a tremendous job getting that pitching staff lined up and organized, and we had a plan. When we went into every game, we'd meet, and here's how we were going to run it. Suggestions either way, how we're going to come out of the pen in this situation, and for the most part, it worked.
Do you see you guys being as power-oriented on both offensively and pitching-wise going forward? Or just?
Well, I think as far as the pitchers, pitching-wise, it just depends on, does Blaine Knight come back? Is he pitching on the weekend for us? Are a couple of these other guys that we've recruited coming in? As far as the power, I don't see being that powerful next year. That's probably in every 3 or 4 year type power, when you just happen to have your young guys grow up and they're juniors, maybe you keep a senior that's come back or whatever. We'll still hit our home runs, but I think that we'll hit a lot more doubles next year. It's hard to hit doubles when and I told the team this. The teams played us on the warning track. If you really looked at other teams' outfield, we couldn't hit over the head. We couldn't hit the ball over Missouri State's head hardly. They were way back there, so it's hard to hit doubles. So it'll be a little different style team next year, but it'll still be a quality team.
How many juniors do you anticipate coming back from this year?
Well, I'd have to look at my sheet to see who's all eligible. I don't, if you go around the horn a little bit, I think Chad Spanberger, went from a guy with a lot of potential to a guy that probably should, in my opinion, should go in the top 5 rounds, and I think he should be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. But that's me talking, just knowing how athletic he is for his size and what could happen. I saw what happened in 1 year. What could happen when he's 23, 24, 25 years old? He could be a starting right fielder in the big leagues or a first baseman, and so I don't expect him back. And obviously, I feel like Shaddy will sign if he's drafted, and I'm sure he will be. Bonfield, who will tell you probably didn't have the year that he wanted, but somebody will still probably take him, even though he just DH'd down the stretch. Outfield-wise, I'm hoping that Arledge has, and he's a senior. Obviously he'll be gone, but I think somebody might give him a chance. And then on the mound, I think Trevor Steffen. Obviously, he passed up on some pretty good money last year, and he really helped himself by coming here. I think Coach Johnson really helped him. Pitching our league really helped him, and I think he's going to be plucked off the board a little higher than a lot of people realize. There's 4 or 5 teams that love him, and he's got that fastball that it's a little different. It's got a little giddy up at the end. It almost looks like it's rising. Teams have trouble hitting it. Obviously, Blaine Knight's a sophomore, but we'll see how that goes. I think there's a chance that he might come back, and that would be huge for our team. And I think in the long run it would be huge for him. It's just we'll see how that goes. So I know I'm leaving out a few juniors. I can't think of them all off the top of my head. Gates, yeah, he'll be back. He's probably not a draft choice. He didn't have a real good year for him. He's going to have a better year next year. So, yeah, he'll be back.
Blaine's pretty high up on some draft boards. What gives you some optimism that he might come back?
He does. His family, a few other things probably I can't talk about, but I had two or three coaches in our league tell me that kid needs to come back. He'll be the guy they all talk about next year. So you're guaranteed to make the same money and probably have a chance to, who knows how high the next year. If you can be patient or you feel good about it, it's come on back. I mean, you look at, even if people say, well, what if he gets hurt? Well, Clark Schmidt got hurt and he's still going in the first round. He proved what he could do last year. I mean, it's like I tell the guys, and Coach Vitale is one used to say it, the hay's in the barn. People know what he can do. Now, if he gets better, bigger, and stronger, which he will, he moves way up. And when you move way up, it can go way up. So, we're optimistic. It's his decision. We don't get involved when you're starting to talk that kind of money, but if they call and ask, and they're calling and ask, we're going to give them our opinion. And, there's a chance.
Among your signings, it seems like some pitchers are pretty high. I mean, who are the ones that you'll be watching the closest to?
Well, we have a 6'8" right-hander, Rutledge, that is up there pretty good, but he's really smart and he really wants to go to school. I think he'd be better served to go to college, and so obviously we're in contact with people that are kind of keeping an eye on things, and I think there's a real good chance he comes to school. We've got a left-hander we signed out of Iowa Western that, if you look at his numbers, he had a lot of walks, but he's got a great arm. He's 6'5" left-hander, throws 95 miles an hour. There's not a lot of them out there. We're hoping that he'll come in here for 1 year and do what Trevor did, and we think that he will really, instead of going in the third round, he could be a first rounder. He's got to be able to throw that fastball over the plate a little more. But I think with Coach Johnson, he will definitely learn that. So that's an iffy one as well. Maybe a couple position players in there that we're concerned with. But I think that for the most part, the kids that we were real concerned about it went maybe a year ago when we got them to thinking there's not much chance or there's good chance we could lose them to guys want to go to school. We've gotten fortunate with this group, so we'll see how it ends up.
Where like Campbell, McKinney, and Scroggins in their rehab, and what's your anticipation for them being ready for
Campbell's good. I mean, he had some bone fragments taken out of his arm. He didn't have anything cut on really or replaced. And as far as Scroggins, I mean, he's Tommy John guy that we've talked to him about it. I think the chance of him pitching in 2018 are slim, if any, none. McKinney was a little bit earlier, a little bit older, a little bigger. I think he's 50-50. Cody's actually a draft-eligible sophomore. Some scouts saw him pitch in the fall and then early. They like the fact that he's got a really good arm and he's a new pitcher. You might see him get drafted next week.
You mentioned that you were excited about next year's team. Kind of what goes into that? Who's coming back?
Well, you got 4 or 5 starters, starting with catcher Grant Cook, and you got Jax Biggers who led our team in hitting and was solid out there, and you got Gates coming back, you got Cole coming back, you got Fletcher coming back, plugging in some athletic kids around those guys, plus some guys that'll just make that jump like everybody does from the freshman year to the sophomore year. That's usually when you see the biggest jump, because they're not nervous anymore, or they've seen it and they relax and they just go play. And obviously it would be huge if Campbell comes back as good or better than he was, and I think he will once he's 100%. And then obviously the opportunity to get Blaine back. If we don't get him, we'll still be okay. But if we get him back, it's a pretty good 1-2 punch. And Blaine leading the way. He's the one with the experience. Blaine's been there. He's been in the battle. Campbell's got good stuff, but he doesn't have Blaine Knight's experience. So I see Blaine being our Friday night starter next year if he shows up, and if he does. It'd be a pretty good start. And I really like the development of a lot of our younger pitchers, Kevin Kopps and Jake Reindl, and there's a few others in there, and you look at, Matt Cronin, whether he's a closer next year, because the kid's going to throw 95 miles an hour, a lot. And he's got a good curveball. He showed it a little bit in his last outing. He threw three in a row to the big first baseman or whoever that was. He may be a starter for us as well. So, Evan Lee's probably the guy that I told in the meetings that out of all the guys on the team, he's the guy I feel the most. I don't know how to word it. I should have played him more, but he's a pitcher and an outfielder. We had outfielders that were doing pretty well, but he's a good hitter and he's a good pitcher. And sometimes we had to just save him to pitch. And next year, I think he'll be in the lineup every day. And he's pretty good hand there. I mean, he was pretty electric, hustling and getting big hits, pinch hits, and very mature for his age, very intense. And so you throw him in the mix too when the 5 other guys that are starters are coming back, and then you put him in there wherever it may be. I think Jordan McFarland's going to be a really good player. He's typical freshman a lot of times. He just kind of had to, got caught in the wrong situation behind guys that couldn't get in front of him and didn't know how to fight his way through it. He'll go out to summer ball this summer and do well and come back and have a good year next year.
Casey Murphy, he's a guy you practice.
Yeah.
Being in your role.
I mean, Casey's a guy that, he could be a conference starter for us next year. He could pitch out of the pen. He could start on Tuesday, pitch out of the pen on the week. It just depends. I mean, but what Casey's done, he came in and proved that, first off, he could handle it. He could handle the atmosphere. And then he finally, I would say, showed us that he could spot his fastball. And when he started throwing his fastball in and out, he can get people out. And then his curveball's okay, and some days it's good. And developing a changeup and cutter or whatever, I mean, he may be a guy that's in the mix. You got a junior left-hander, those guys can win. And then, it's definitely a 90-mile-an-hour arm, 88 to 91 right now. And he's going to stay around here this summer and get bigger and stronger and try to get in better shape. And I think the velocity will go up, and he'll be ready to really contribute next year.
At one point, Eric Cole was hitting just under 200, and then, he finishes the year just under 300. What changes did you see from him?
Eric Cole, 2 falls in a row here, freshman and sophomore, he was probably our top hitter, or right at it. I mean, just hitting it all over. In both years, he got off to a miserable start. Freshman year, it happens. This year, kind of unexpected. And he was probably the hard luck hitter besides Grant. Those 2 guys going down the stretch, they hit the ball as hard as anybody and didn't get a lot of hits out of it. Eric ran out of games where he'd hit 300. And we played 10 more games, he might hit 325. So I don't really know why. A little bit of his personality. And I think he's learned to get out of some things, sometimes make adjustments. But I think that next year he could hit leadoff for us. I think he could hit in the 3-hole. He's getting bigger and stronger. He's a good runner. I told him that I really want him to try to work on stealing bases and become a really good bunter. And if he can do that, he could even be more of a weapon. He could be a pretty good draft choice next year.
If Shaddy signs Jackson Williams, is he get first shot at second?
I don't know. He's got ways to go. So I think that we have 3 freshmen coming in that have a really good opportunity to get that. I think Matt Birch has an opportunity. Matt Birch can really run. He can throw, and he can hit. Even though the numbers don't show it, if he got last fall, I thought Birch would play a lot. We all did because he hit really well. He's got to get better defensively, and we had that talk. And I think if he hits, you got a left-handed bat. You might have a right-handed bat. I got a switch hitting infielder coming in, a right-handed hitting infielder, and a left-handed hitting infielder coming in. So there's going to be some options.
Your coaching tree got bigger with Tony going to Tennessee. You've got 2 former assistants in the Supers.
Yeah.
Just how do you feel about that? I know your job is to win games here, but how do you feel about that aspect of it?
I'm happy for him. Obviously, we want to be there. But, when we weren't there that night, I actually sent Coach Deggs a text out congratulating him. He gave me a call. They watched our game on the bus on the way back. He had a lot of nice things to say, and obviously he was extremely excited. And then with Coach Childress, they've been devastated 2 years in a row. Last year they were really good, and they lost to TCU on their own field. They were supposed to win that series, and their players they didn't play well. They lost the year before at TCU in like 13 innings, and it just kind of like it all fell into place for them. Instead of having to go to North Carolina and play, they get to play at home against a team that they've been given a 90% chance to beat. So I'm extremely happy for those guys, and I hope they both make it to Omaha.
With Gosser gone and then just Cook kind of wearing down at the end of the year, how important is a backup catcher?
We've got backup catchers. Ask Cook. He's worried about it. No, just kidding. We've got a freshman switch hitter coming in out of Colorado named Casey Opitz that's playing some summer ball at a really good league away from home this summer. We've got Zach Plunkett, who is also in our program last fall that transferred in here from TCU, but he was ineligible. We've got, obviously, Grant, who caught almost every inning for us and did a tremendous job. So, and then we've got another young catcher that's also a first baseman that's coming in that hits left hand. He's got a lot of power. May end up being a first baseman, but we'll see how that goes. So we'll be fine back there.
What was the conversation like with Tony when he told you that he was taking the Tennessee job?
Well, it was good. I was happy for him. Tony didn't go out and go crazy trying to look for jobs. Now, a little here, a little there, but I've been around other coaches that their mind wanders and maybe they don't, complete their job, or they get away or sidetracked a little more. Tony really never varied from the course. He was like all of us. He just wanted to get through this regional and have a chance to continue to play. And once we lost, they contacted him. And, I talked to Tennessee a couple of times, as a matter of fact, but I talked to him about a couple other coaches. And then they called and talked to me about Tony. They never asked me about Tony. And Tony never asked me to call them for him, because I will call and talk to them about assistant coaches. So, I think I knew before he called me, because one of their associate ADs called me before Tony got a hold of me. And they wanted me to make a statement. And I said, well, what do you want me to make a statement on? And I was kind of being facetious, but I wanted somebody to tell me. And he said, well, I said, are you telling me Tony's your new head coach? Oh, yeah, he is. Okay, well, then I gave him a statement. So I was extremely happy for him. Obviously, then it turns, okay, I got to take care of this. And we were getting ready to have our last team meeting a couple hours later. But happy for him. And, he did a great job here. It was the right hire at the right time. And it's exactly what we needed, and now we'll move on to the next guy, and it'll be a good one. It'll be one that the players are going to like, and one that can relate to them, and is upbeat and high energy, and likes to work with hitters, and likes to be on the road.
Whether it be Tony or Canizero or Butch Thompson, there's a lot of teams in this conference that are hiring assistants away from other SEC schools. I wonder what you think about that trend.
Yeah, I'm good with it. It wasn't that way 5 years ago. Maybe they would hire a mid-major coach to take the job. It was safer. There are still some schools across the country that probably won't hire assistants, because maybe that's the way they think it should be done. But, it's like anything else. It's about getting the right guy, the right fit, and whether it's an assistant or a head coach, somebody that wants to be there, somebody that's hungry, whether they've been a head coach or not. Just like Dave Serrano at Tennessee. To me, Dave Serrano is a really good baseball coach and has a really good baseball mind, very intelligent, can coach pitchers, can call a game. He did it at two different West Coast schools. He got them to the World Series, and it just did not work at Tennessee for one reason or another, and who knows why. So I'm sure Tony will do fine there. He's got to put together a staff. But I guess to answer your question, you're seeing that a lot more. And I'll tell you something else you're seeing, too. You're seeing head coaches leave head coaches' jobs to go back to being coordinators and getting away from being head coaches. There were two that did it last year, and I'm getting calls right now from head coaches that are ready to not be a head coach anymore. Sometimes it's not real fun.
You already play Rob Childress every year. You glad Tony's in the other division, and you're going to play him some.
Yeah,
but not
I really
year.
am. I'm glad he's at Tennessee and not a school in our division. So we'll see him every now and then. We'll run into him all the time recruiting. Tony and I will probably talk once or twice a week, because he has a lot of questions, and I'll try to help him, and vice versa.
You mentioned that you talked to some other SEC coaches. I wonder, when you're looking for an assistant, how much you rely on other people, and how much is it maybe just names that you've kind of kept a file on through the years?
Well, you do rely on some people. The way I'll do it, I'll probably, I'll make a call to their former coach when they were a player, and then I'll call and talk to one of the schools that maybe they'd coached at. And, obviously you don't really, until you're sure, you don't want to call the coach that he works for until you want to bring him in and talk to him. And so, you just kind of do a little FBI work, I guess, a little investigating as best you can, and then maybe even try to find a couple players that they've coached, find out what they think about them. And if you keep getting the same answer and it's not a good one, then you better just move on, because it's probably the way it is. So, you just do the best you can to try to figure out what you're getting, not just what maybe one guy that wants to help his buddy. You got to go a little deeper.
With the success you've had with like Benintendi and some of those guys who stayed here and worked out all summer, how many are going to do that, and how many do you want playing summer ball?
It's a good mix. Some of the younger guys are going to go play ball. Some of them have to come back and go to summer school and take a class or two. There's a couple of guys that are just going to stay here. Example, Casey Murphy's just going to stay here and getting stronger and getting better shape and long toss. The issue is with the summer and being here is we can't coach them. We can see them out the window and talk to them. They can work with our strength coach, and if they're going to school, they can use the academic areas. But we can't physically coach them, and they pretty much do everything on their own. So it's different each player. Some guys need a break. Some guys need to rest. Some guys need to go get a bunch of at bats. Some guys need to get on the mound and try to get hitters out. Example, if we have a kid in here that we've redshirted him because we don't think he's ready, and then he goes out and he pitches in the summer and he can't get anybody out, then this might not be the place where he needs to try to come back in the fall and try to get people out, because our hitters are going to be better probably than what he's seen all summer.
Kinley play other than third base? What's his
Kinley can play shortstop, second base. He can play outfield. He's just a versatile kid. He's strong, good athlete. That bat comes along, he could start anywhere because he can play defense with anybody, especially at third base, because he's got that gift of extremely strong, accurate arm, and it's short. He's I would say his range would be average or maybe a little above. Bigger's range is above average. Doesn't have his arm, but he just doesn't miss a ball hardly. So we're going to have some infielders in here next year. We didn't have a lot of depth this year, but next year it'll be a little deeper, and the competition will be pretty good, because really we didn't know who to play at third, and second base can be wide open. And Biggers is the returning shortstop that made all conference. I'd have to say he was in good shape there if he stays healthy, and he's a ball player, so I don't think there's going to be an issue there.
The final diagnosis on Wilson, is he?
Yeah, that leg, well, he'd probably been better off if it had just been broken, honestly, and they could have set it and let it heal. It's been really a tough deal, but he's getting better. He's just now getting to the point where they're letting him put pressure and jog on it a little bit. He has been lifting and doing that. He's put on like 10, 15 pounds in strength, which he needs that. But he should be good to go by, if everything goes good, he should be 100% by fall ball. And, there's another guy that, he's playing pretty good when he got hurt. He brought a lot of energy to the game. He's verbal. He loves it, and he'll be an older guy with experience. Is he going to be the most talented? We'll see, but he might be the most ready. So we'll see.
He didn't play enough that he could get a red shirt out of that.
Yeah, he's going to get a red shirt. Yeah, he'll get a medical red shirt. From everything that we've been told, he should be fine. So he still have two years of eligibility left.
Yeah, stress fracture. What is it?
Pretty much deep bone bruise, and then they end up finding a fracture. I mean, I don't know all the detail. You'd have to talk to Corey, our trainer, but yeah, he got a fracture in there.
Thelander coming back, you said as a volunteer coach. I wonder what you think, because you don't get a lot of. That's a high turnover position. You don't get a lot of guys to come back for a secondary.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, you do. Yeah. He made a 2-year commitment to me. Usually they stay for 2. After that, it's hard to get him to stay longer than that. Josh could probably get a job right now at a smaller school, junior college, mid-major. Next year it'll be the same, but it'll be better because his resume will be better. His wife's school teacher here. They love it here. He wants to stay here another year. Obviously, we would like to be the full-time assistant, but we've had 2 different conversations, and they've gone well. So he has a bright future in coaching. He's going to be fine.